Johnny, it would appear the airline industry is now really struggling given the current pandemic situation. Who are likely to be the winners and losers, and what role does blockchain have in all of this?
Okay, well, very interesting to see recently Warren Buffett has just sold all of his exposure airline stocks, so raising something like 4 billion in cash to add to his 130 billion. So interesting to see that he's now sitting on nearly 30% of his portfolio is actually sitting in cash. Currently, the airline industry consumes about 8 million barrels of oil a day out of the 100 million that are produced. So if the airlines aren't flying, then clearly there's less demand for oil. But in terms of sort of winners and losers, well, it looks like Boris Johnson may well get his wish and there'll be no third runway at Heathrow. Climate change is clearly a beneficiary because there's less pollution, less planes flying around. Kids' education, because parents are less likely to be tempted to take their kids out of school and take advantage of cheap flights because they just aren't travelling. Owners of Zoom, team from Microsoft, people that own conference call apps, big beneficiaries, less business travel and more conference calls. Staycations. I think you'll find a lot more people are actually going to their local Airbnb or going to local hotels as opposed to travelling overseas. Residents at local airports, clearly a beneficiary. But in terms of the losers, we've already mentioned about the oil. This clearly is another nail in the coffin for high street travel agents, as people are less likely to be travelling overseas for a while. Business travel is going to be obviously very much frowned upon, if at all it's going to be allowed until people have got medical passports. Airline staff, British Airways already announced 12,000 staff being dismissed. And airline stocks, if you look at Jet ETF, it's an ETF which actually tracks the airline industry, and it's already plummeted by 51% in the last year. So in terms of how blockchain can help, well, it's more people working from home and less business travel, less face-to-face connections. You're going to want to have information held in a very, very secure way whereby people can trust the information. And this is where I think we're also going to see governments relying on blockchain, whereby you've got some transparency and greater trust over the immutability of the data, which in turn should actually mean more of people looking at using blockchain-powered platforms.